All right, everyone. Today we're diving into something that's happening in your body right now, even as you sit here. It's called glycolysis, and it's how your cells turn sugar into energy. Think of your body like a car. To drive, you need a fuel. For us, that fuel is sugar, specifically a sugar called glucose. Glycolysis is like your starter motor, firing up your body's engine to keep you moving, thinking, and living. Now, why care about glycolysis? Because every time you breathe, blink, or even listen to me, your cells need energy. And guess what? That energy doesn't come out of nowhere. It comes from the food you eat, especially sugar. When you eat a slice of pizza or a piece of fruit, your body starts breaking it down. One of the most important parts of this process is glycolysis, the first step in turning food into fuel. Just a fun fact, your body can start breaking down sugar in milliseconds. That's faster than you can say. What is glycolysis? Let's break down the first word. Glyco refers to sugar, and lysis means breaking or splitting. So, glycolysis literally means sugar breaking. It's the process where your body starts turning food, specifically glucose, a type of sugar, into energy your cells can use. Now, here's what actually happens. Glycolysis is a 10-step chemical pathway that takes place in the cytoplasm of your cells. That's the jelly-like fluid inside all cells. Importantly, this part of energy production doesn't need oxygen, which means it's an anaerobic process. During glycolysis, one molecule of glucose, which has 6 carbon atoms, gets broken down into 2 molecules of pyruvate, each with 3 carbon atoms. Along the way, the cell also produces a small amount of ATP, which is like your cell's energy currency, and some NADH, which is an electron carrier that will be used later in the mitochondria. Think of glycolysis like the opening act of a concert. It sets the stage and starts the energy making show. But the real headliner, the big energy payoff, happens later in the mitochondria during the next stages, the Krebs cycle and the electron transport chain, which require oxygen. So in short, glycolysis is the first, fast, and oxygen-free step your cells use to start harvesting energy from sugar, breaking glucose in half and prepping it for the big energy production inside the mitochondria. Here's a simple visual. Glucose enters your cells, and boom, glycolysis kicks in. It's an anaerobic process, which means it doesn't need oxygen to work. That makes it super handy in situations where you need quick energy fast, like during a sprint. All right, let's walk through glycolysis step by step in plain English, like you're explaining it to a friend who's curious but not a biochemist. For the input, we need one glucose molecule. Everything starts with one glucose molecule. That's a simple sugar with 6 carbon atoms. You can picture it like a small hexagon of energy just waiting to be used. For the investment phase, before your body can make energy from glucose, it needs to spend some energy to set things in motion. Your cells use 2 ATP molecules here. These ATPs add phosphate groups to the glucose molecule, turning it to a more reactive form called fructose 1,6 biphosphate. Think of this step like inserting 2 coins into an arcade game to start the machine. Without this, the game or the glycolysis doesn't even start. In the cleavage phase, now that the glucose has been prepped and energized, It's time to split it down the middle. The 6-carbon sugar gets cut into two 3-carbon molecules. These are called G3P, or glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. Technically, only one is G3P at first, but the other quickly turns into it, so you end up with two identical 3-carbon molecules ready for the next step. Now, we're halfway through and we've got two smaller molecules to work with. It's like splitting a bill with a friend. You each take half. Now, with the payoff phase, here's where your cell starts making a return on that energy investment. Each of the two 3-carbon G3P molecules goes through a series of reactions. During this process, each one produces 2 ATPs and 1 NADH, a molecule that carries electrons to be used later in the mitochondria for even more energy. Since you had 2 G3Ps, you end up with 4 ATPs total, 2 from each, 2 NADH, and 2 pyruvate molecules, which are the end products of glycolysis, and will move on to the next stage of energy production. But remember, you use 2 ATP at the beginning, so your net gain is just 2 ATP. Now let's talk about ATP, the energy currency of life. So ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. Sounds technical, but think of it this way. Adenosine is the base, and triphosphate means it got 3 phosphate groups, like 3 little springs loaded with energy. This one. That last phosphate group is the one packed with the most potential energy. When your cell snaps it off, it releases a burst of energy, just like when a spring pops. That energy can be used to power basically everything your cell does. Contracting muscles, building proteins, sending nerve signals, repairing damage, you name it. ATP is your cell's battery pack. Now let's go back to the phone analogy. Imagine your cell is your smartphone. Everything it does, texting, calling, browsing the internet, running apps, requires battery power. That battery is ATP. Just like your phone drains power, the more you use it, your cells constantly use up ATP to stay alive and do their jobs. So your body is always looking for ways to recharge to make more ATP. Now, what happens depends on where or whether or not there's oxygen. If oxygen is present, pyruvate goes into the mitochondria, the cell's fuel engine for more energy. That's aerobic respiration. If there's no oxygen, like when you're sprinting and breathing heavily, pyruvate becomes lactic acid. That's aerobic or anaerobic fermentation. The lactic acid is what gives you that burning feeling in your muscles. Now, when you're doing something intense like sprinting or lifting weights, your body can't get oxygen to your muscles fast enough. So it relies on glycolysis for quick energy. That's when lactic acid builds up. Once you stop and breathe deeply again, your body clears that acid and finishes the energy-making process using oxygen. That's why your breathing is heavy after a workout. It's your body's catching up. So why is glycolysis such a big deal? It's universal. Almost everything or every living thing, from tiny bacteria to giant whales, uses it. It's fast and doesn't need oxygen, so it's great for emergencies. And it lays the groundwork for bigger energy processes later. No glycolysis, no energy. No energy, no life. That's how essential it is. Let's bring it back to our car analogy. Glycolysis is like your car's starter motor. It doesn't get you all the way there, but without it, the car doesn't even start. The mitochondria is the full engine that powers your long drive, but glycolysis is what gets that engine revving. So think of glycolysis as the thing that gets your cells moving fast. All right, let's wrap it up. Glycolysis is a 10-step process that breaks down glucose into pyruvate. It happens in the cytoplasm of the cell, not the mitochondria. You get 2 ATP, 2 NADH, and 2 pyruvate per glucose. It works with or without oxygen. And most importantly, it helps fuel everything your body does, from flexing muscles to thinking through a math test. So the next time you're chowing down on a snack, remember, you're not just eating. You're fueling your body's engine. That's all for today. Thank you for listening. This is your teacher. See you in the next module. Bye-bye.